Hey, everybody, welcome to Awards Heaven. This is a special episode where we are talking about prognostication skills, but not about entertainment awards, which is our main love, but we also are, me and Rob are huge fucking political nerds. And the 2026 midterms are just around the corner, and we wanted to share our thoughts about where we think some of these races stand, and who knows, maybe some things will change, and maybe we can look back on this and go, what the fuck? We were right about something.
Yeah,
I've always been, I live out, I always make, a comment. I live in Northern Virginia, right outside Washington, D.C. Politics has always been in my blood. The thing that made me that got me into politics was the 1994 U.S. Senate race in Virginia, of all things, between incumbent Senator Chuck Robb and Oliver North from Iran-Contra fame was the
wow.
Republican nominee. And he couldn't
Was
win in
he?
the Republican wave year of 1994. Robb won re-election because Oliver North was a terrible, terrible candidate. There's a great documentary about it called "A Perfect Candidate." If you ever want to see it, it's a really fascinating documentary. Rob,
Wow.
I think some of our viewers would like to know, if they're watching this, what would make someone on the other side of the planet
hmm
uh, be so fascinated with American politics?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And first of all, I'll just say, Charles, this is a great idea. I think we should do this more often. I love talking about American politics with you in particular because you know so much. But the reason, look, a lot of people outside the US actually really care about US politics. It's a thing, and Americans may not realize this. Especially Australians, the people from the UK, Canadians, Europeans, where we have a more of a global outlook than Americans do. Like we're not as, and no disrespect, we're not as insular as Americans seem to be, and we care about American politics because it actually does affect the world. It affects all of us. So that's one reason. The other thing is, I've always felt like I've had one foot in America and one foot in Australia. Like ever since I was a kid, I used to spend my summers over there. I've effectively been working in America remotely for many, many years now, and feel like I have a real connection with America and Americans. A lot of my friends, like you, are American, and also I just really find it so fascinating. It's such a fascinating system. It's the way the media covers it, the personalities that come out of the American political system. I remember when my daughter Juliet was born, holding her. I have a video of holding her with Paula on the couch watching the Obama inauguration because the time that it comes on for us is quite late at night. It's just something that's part of my DNA, and I'm fascinated by it. And of course, over the last 10, 12 years things have become so ridiculously toxic and horrifying. It's like America, the series. I just feel like every day, most of us foreigners who are interested will pick up our phones and go, "What did that motherfucker do overnight?" And it's literally always something stupid, corrupt, just ridiculous, hypocritical. And I just feel like if Kamala Harris had won the election, and she had done the top 10 terrible things that Donald Trump has done, a nuclear bomb would have gone off. And yet he just seems to get away with whatever the corruption, the racism, the misogyny, the fact that he's a pedophile, all these things. I just feel like, okay, this is fascinating. So, yeah, but the Senate races, the House, the governors, I'm so excited to be talking about this, mate. Let's do it.
I mean, like as you can see, one of my most prized possessions, as you can see behind me, is my Howard Dean for President sign. The first
Yeah.
vote I ever cast. I was 17 years old, but Virginia and a lot of places have a rule where if you're going to be 18 by the time of the general election, if you can vote in the primary if you're 17. So my very first vote was the 2004 Democratic presidential primary in Virginia. I cast my vote for Howard Dean. John Kerry ended up winning that, but John Kerry was well on his way to the nomination at that point. Interesting story also about the Obama inauguration. I was supposed to be one of the volunteers who worked that inauguration. My team leader never got back to me, and so I ended and honestly, thank God he didn't because it was freezing that day, and I ended up watching the inauguration with a friend of mine who was an avid Republican in Old Town Alexandria from Louisiana. My good friend Austin Stukins. He was a big McCain backer, but we came together and watched the inauguration. and we're genuinely moved by it. We had a fun time watching that. That was an incredible moment. I was at the Obama victory party in Virginia. I remember, getting the news from Tim Kaine that Obama had won Virginia, the first time Virginia had gone blue in 44 years. And
Wow.
then he said, and guess what? The polls have just closed on the West Coast, and Obama's officially president elect. And we all lost our mind at the Tyson's Sheridan. No, not the Sheridan. Was the Hilton. That's me being nerdy about personal
So
events
nerdy.
in
I
history.
love it.
But
Love
yeah,
it.
we have a very interesting midterm year because it's you know uh, very often second midterm years are not good for the party. Usually midterm years are never good for the party in power, but second midterm years are usually devastating. They were for George W. Bush because the first midterm he had was immediately after 9/11, and Republicans actually gained in both the House and Senate, which was very against type. Obama's
Mm,
second midterm was a disaster,
a
uh,
shellacking.
an absolute disaster. Um, and now Trump is getting his second midterm, and this one is looking very interesting. So, very quickly, I wanted to start with talking about we just had the primary this past week in Wisconsin. And honestly, I just want to say about where things stand with the Democratic Party. It kind of feels like both Wisconsin and Michigan showed that it's pretty damn divided about where Democratic primary voters stand about what they want the party to be.
Mm,
Now, I understand for a lot of people, there is strategic voting. They want someone who they feel will definitely win. But I think there's definitely another current that's the more progressive current that wants more of the person who's going to take the fight to them, not wait for the actions. They want someone who's actually going to bring the, because also, let's face it, we've had an establishment that's lost to Trump twice.
yeah.
And I
Like, can you
honestly
believe?
also, and the same way that I don't feel like a lot of Republicans were prepared for how bad the elections were going to be for them in 2025, I still don't think they're really prepared for how bad they're going to be for them in 2026. But I also feel like the Democratic Party still, at least with the movers and the shakers who try to be the power brokers, I feel like they still have not fully reckoned with how disastrous the decision was to run Biden again. And yes,
Yeah.
he did eventually drop out, and I give Kamala Harris a lot of credit for what I call stopping the bleeding.
Yes.
I mean, it was not a good year for Democrats, but I think it could have been way worse. Like maybe Virginia would have gone for Trump. I mean, who knows at that point? But
Yeah.
I still feel like a lot
Yeah.
of people haven't fully reckoned with that. And I think we're still waiting. I think some people from the Democratic Party still need to be, get there, really understand where people like me are. And we should obviously say anybody who's been watching this channel probably understands that Rob and I are definitely on the left side of the political spectrum. I want to say liberal, but that's the old say, and that's like now like a
Yeah.
bad saying in America. And of course, for you, liberal is the
Yeah.
name of the right wing party
That's
in
right.
in Australia, which
It's so
makes it so
crazy.
which makes
So
it
we
so
always
weird to
have to
talk about.
say small L liberal or capital L. That's how we, like, I would say I'm a center left guy because there are some things on the center right that I contemplate sometimes and think that maybe that's a good idea. But generally speaking, center left. And if I was voting in America, I would absolutely be a Democrat. I would probably be very much part of the party. I just think the Democrats definitely have a better vision for the country. And I'm not talking about the stupid, crazy extreme left where like let's just put that aside because both sides, both parties have their extremes and they're both toxic and stupid. But I was going to say that I feel that like I'm in two minds about Biden because I agree with you 100%. He should not have run again, and it was the beginning of the end. But I do feel that people treated him really unfairly. He was a pretty good president. Yes, he was old and doddering and had a stutter, but he wasn't. He did not have dementia, and he wasn't like
He
on
was just
death's
showing
door.
his age. And the,
He
the,
was
the,
just
the
showing
thing is
his
that Donald
age,
Trump is
and
doing the
like,
exact same thing because he was
look,
supposed to what? Oh, he's not even a year younger than him.
yeah, and yet because Donald Trump shellacks his face with orange makeup and and wears a girdle and whatever else, and a diaper. Like, no one says anything. It's only Biden gets attacked. And given, look at the economy and where we are at now, and look at the fact that we're in a war with Iran that never should have happened, and all these other stupid things that have happened, and no one seems to care. But if Biden did one of those things, it would just be the end of the world. And that is because everyone paying attention right now, that is because of the right wing media and the Fox News echo chamber. It is so bad. It is so toxic. It's poisoning all of us so badly because we're not really seeing the objective truth. Anyway, I just wanted to say that I feel like the Democrats are going to have obviously a great year, but I'm actually really worried, Charlie. I'm really worried about you and all of you over in America because I just don't know what this disgusting autocrat is capable of. And he's going to do everything in his power to put his thumb on that scale and cheat. And while he projects and says everyone else is cheating and everything else is rigged, he is the chief rigger. And I'm really, really worried. I hope the elections go okay. And I hope the Democrats completely demolish the GOP. That's what they deserve after supporting this thing, this orange thing in the White House. And I'm hoping that this might be the reset that America needs.
Tried to launch a fucking coup, man. I mean, the lead up to the 2020 election was so crazy. I mean, COVID just was the baseline of the craziness. But I remember the rhetoric was getting so crazy. I actually thought to myself at one point, at a certain point before the election, I was thinking to myself, I'm worried about what certain agitators are going to do. And I actually
Yeah,
seriously considered buying a gun. I actually seriously considered buying a gun. Didn't do it. Didn't do it. But and then January 6th, and remember, we were texting on our chain,
yeah,
and
constantly.
I'm going, they just said
I couldn't,
the House office buildings have been evacuated. What the
I
fuck is
can't
going
believe,
on? And
couldn't
that's the
believe it.
crazy thing. January 6th was streamed by those people themselves.
Yeah,
The footage of them beating up cops.
and that
And they
seemed to
were
be
going,
okay because he got voted in again. Like after January 6th, that should have been disqualifying.
yeah,
But
yeah. I mean, but things are what they are. I'm going to share my
here we
screen
are.
here. First thing I'm going to
Yes.
share here is the New York Times. This is our remaining primary calendar. As you can see, we're in the very tail end. These are extremely late primaries for God knows why. I mean, South Carolina has a special election. We understand that has to happen. But like Alaska and Florida are really the only ones that are really interesting. Massachusetts is also interesting because you have a Senate race there. Longtime Senator Ed Markey, who was appointed to replace John Kerry when John Kerry became Secretary of State. He was a long-time uh, congressman, and then into 2020, he faced a challenge from Congressman Joe Kennedy III, and Markey did something extremely brilliant. He positioned himself as a fighter of the left. He got AOC to endorse him. He ran one of the most brilliant campaigns I've ever seen. And also, I don't call him Markey, I call him Mackey because he has
Yeah.
that thick Boston accent, which I always joke because I'm born and descended from New Yorkers that I always say New Massachusetts people don't pump blood in through their veins like you or me, but rather a thick black vomitous fluid. Um,
I love that.
and now he's
It's
facing
good.
another challenge from Seth Moulton, Congressman Seth Moulton, who's
Yeah.
trying to get at the whole like gerontocracy thing, which I think kind of might work, but I think Markey's going to pull this one out. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
And can I just say, Charlie, what you said earlier about the fighters, I think we need to reframe. I don't think the tension in the Democratic Party is between the Democratic Socialists who want more, who want to look after the poor and the needy, and then the establishment. I think this is about the gerontocracy and the establishment who are not fighting enough. The like Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, they write their very, very pointed letters, but that's not doing fucking anything. We want fighters, and that is the tension, and the fighters need to win.
well, we also saw like the perils of what Chuck Schumer was doing with I think with what happened in the main Senate race. I
Yeah.
remember I was actually in Cape Cod with my very good friend Kenton, who I came up. We met in College Democrats. We were co-presidents of the organization at George Mason University for one semester, and then he went off to grad school, and I kept on for my remaining two semesters at Mason. Um, and we've stayed good friends. He owns a firm that writes fundraising emails now. Amongst his clients, 5 years ago actually was Catherine Garcia, the former New York City sanitation commissioner, who almost beat Eric Adams in the Democratic primary. So watching Zoran Mamdani, he lives in Queens now, and so watching Zoran Mamdani take down Eric Adams was so cathartic for him. But
So good.
we were in Cape Cod when I remember him telling me, he's like, there's this video that's going viral online of this oyster farmer in Maine who's running against Susan Collins. And the thing is that other more established people were thinking of getting in and were making their intentions known that they wanted to get into the Senate race. Schumer and the DSCC made it, the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee made it very clear that they were trying to recruit Janet Mills, the incumbent governor, and
Right. I think
uh,
that would have been fine.
and
No?
but here's the thing: Mills was never her heart was never, and according to her friends, people who actually knew her, she didn't want to run for Senate. She's 78. She didn't want to run for this.
Right.
But Schumer was still making it known and made it known to people that wanted to get in that if they got in, they were going to have the weight of the DCC against them. And so a lot of people who might have run for that didn't run for that. And that's how we got this whole Graham Plattner craziness, because then Janet Mills finally gets in October, and everyone's like, we like you, Janet, but no, you're not the person for this moment. And
Yeah.
that's and but fortunately things have corrected themselves. I think things are going well there. We will get to the Senate in just a moment. I just want to show also a house map here. This is from the site
Oh,
270towin.com, where you can play around. You can play around with your different districts here, color them in, make your projections. This is the consensus view of what are your swing districts are. Those are the ones that are colored in beige here, and I think they're mostly right. It's going to be interesting to see how some of these gerrymandering effects go
yeah.
with states like California. Texas is going to be interesting because they configured this gerrymander based on based on 2024 numbers when Latinos swung heavily to Trump. And
Hmm.
if you get a chance, there's a wonderful. I don't. Are you familiar with Zateo, the news outlet Zateo,
Yeah.
Mehdi Hassan's news
Mehdi
outlet?
Hassan. Yeah.
Yeah, his chief political reporter John Harwood, who's someone who I've been following for years. I remember back
Fantastic.
I first became aware of him when he was a reporter for CNBC, and he works for Zateo now. He did a really great interview. You can find it; it's for free on YouTube with this former Republican pollster who's also Latino, and he's been very into the Latino trends. And he's saying that that really the main issue for Latinos, like everybody else, is the economy. It's not really
Mm.
immigration as much, because remember, the Latino voters, even though yes, there's the whole racial profiling thing, and that is definitely helping to recalibrate them against Republicans.
Hmm.
It's remember, a lot of them are the ones that are voting are citizens, so they don't have to worry as much about immigration, or they shouldn't have to, until Kavanaugh said it's not that big a deal if they get stopped. They can get things worked out.
It's
Tell that to
okay.
tell that to the people that are trapped, that they get shipped off to another state
Just a
detention
cop.
facility. Um, but I think the gerrymander in Texas might end up being what we call a dummy mander and end up backfiring on them. I do want to just
Hope
point
so.
out, though, Virginia, my home state of Virginia, has two districts that are in play here. One is this district here, which is the second district. That is the Hampton Roads area, which is Norfolk, Hampton, Virginia Beach, Newport News. It's become much more democratic over the years, and especially with because many people, when they think about how federal workers have been affected in Virginia, they think of Nova, obviously, because we're right next door to Virginia and we have so many federal workers. Remember,
Hmm.
Norfolk, Virginia has the largest naval base in the country. And there's a
Right.
lot of federal workers down there in that area that got screwed over by this administration as well. And that's only going to help Elaine Luria. Elaine Luria won this seat back in
Hmm.
2018. Um, and had it for 2 terms, then lost to state senator by the name of Jen Kiggins. She's been there for now 4 years. I think she's going to lose, and I think Elaine Luria is going to be back in this position. I also just want to say, you gave us your country when you were talking about what you were talking about with the media landscape. Your country gave us Rupert Murdoch, and
Yeah,
we
we did.
reciprocated by giving you as your new American ambassador to Australia, former Virginia Congressman Dave Bratt,
Oh
who
my
is
God.
only a name because I remember that a primary night in 2014, he knocked off House Majority Leader Eric Cantor in the 7th District. And in a
Wow.
primary, he knocked off the incumbent House Majority Leader. But 4 years later, in 2018, he would lose his seat to a former CIA worker by the name of Abigail Spanberger.
Yes. And
And
now look
now
where she
look at where
is.
things are. She's the governor
That's
and he's
wonderful.
the ambassador.
You know what? I just want to say as an aside, we went from Caroline Kennedy as the ambassador to Australia to that guy. Really? Really? Is
my
that the best you can do?
my
Anyway.
condolences. Someone who doesn't believe that government should exist in the first place. Um, the other district that I want to
Oh,
keep, that I think I'm going to be keeping an eye on, is the first district here. This is what we call the northern neck of Virginia. This has been represented for years, for decades, since 2007 by a man named Rob Whitman, and probably the only. He hasn't really had a credible challenger. He has had a notorious challenger because in 2010, a leftist activist by the name of Crystal Ball was the Democratic nominee against him. And now she, of course, is the host of Breaking Points, and her and Kyle Kalinske are like the more palatable version of Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski. They're
yeah, I
they're
like
not they're not
Karklinski.
creepy about it.
No.
Joe and Mika are
Um,
fucking creepy. I'm sorry.
yeah, although I must admit, I still watch Joe and Mika pretty often. Can I just do a quick aside, Charlie? Because I want
Please
to
do.
know from
Yes.
you, um, who are the people in the blogosphere and the podcaster sphere that you listen to? And I'll just tell you mine because I love Tim Miller so much. I listen to every single podcast that he does, including the little quick ones that he does where he
Yeah.
repurposes his interviews with Deadline White House. And I just think he's awesome. I like John Heilman. I like all the
John
people from
Heileman's
the
one of the best.
circus.
He's
He's
one
one
of
of
the
the
best.
best.
The
Such a
game
good
change the two game
interviewer.
change books are some of the best
Oh,
reads
so
you will
good.
ever have.
I like Kara Swisher. I do listen to the Pod Save Bros. In fact, like these are my podcasts. So you can see Award Seven's right up there. There's Sarah Longwell, and I do like Ezra Klein and Alex Wagner. And yeah, I just feel like Tim Miller and the Bulwark are doing such incredible work. Sam Stein, the whole team, Jonathan Longwell, they're all great. And I just want to just do a shout out to them because I listen to them every day.
I do as well. I really enjoy Tim Miller. He used to bug the crap out of me because I first became aware of him post COVID, and he had that long stringy hair, which I did not think looked good on him. And my mom couldn't stand him with the pearl. My mom loves him now, but when he first with the pearls and everything, I actually liked the pearls. But I really like him. I like JVL. I like Sarah Longwell. There are times I have differences with them, but I'm as I said, I just turned 40. I'm mature enough to realize that my differences don't negate everything else. There's
That's right.
it's okay to have these differences of opinion. I do like the Pod Save Bros. I like actually that they've been more emphatic about coming out. Maybe they weren't before, but now they are firmly on like they are firmly against Netanyahu and really against the Israeli experiment in general. They see what I've been seeing for years now about the subjugation and what's essentially apartheid there.
Yeah.
It's I feel like they've really and I don't take everything from them, but I like hearing I especially like hearing when Lovett, which I also love John Lovett because he named his first son Charlie. So,
There you go.
that's
Obviously
that's
after
actually
you.
why I got into the U.S. Senate race in Virginia, was because the incumbent was Chuck Robb, and I had never seen a famous Charlie
Wow.
because I was 7 or 8 at the time. I didn't know who the fuck Charlie Sheen was, and it's probably for the best that I didn't.
Yeah.
But that was why I was first so interested in that race. And then I remember going to the elementary school with my mom, and she made her choices, and I got to push the big green vote button. That was,
Yes.
which was like, I was 8, so sue me.
Civic duty. Okay, we
Um,
digress.
but
What do
yes,
we? Yeah,
I so those are who I like. Sam Cedar a lot. Sam Cedar and Emma Vigland I really like, especially because I like that Sam Cedar first came up as a stand-up, and actually his comedy partner for years was John Benjamin, the guy who voices Bob on Bob's Burgers and Archer on Archer. They were a comedy team for years, and Sam Cedar still will occasionally appear on Bob's Burgers as Hugo the health inspector,
as you
which
do.
he does a great job with that. Um, and I will say, I love one of the other reasons I love the Bulwark is they brought in Sam Stein, who I've been a fan of for a long time back in his days at the Huffington Post, but they also brought on Will Sommer, who
Yeah, he's great.
oh God, I first fell in love with him at the Daily Beast, and his podcast he had there called Fever Dreams, where he delved into right wing culture. That's how I became familiar with QAnon, and I knew about a lot of this stuff that that a lot of these January Sixers. So like it wasn't until after January 6th that a lot of people became familiar with QAnon. I was familiar with QAnon beforehand because of Will Summers' reporting at the Daily Beast and the podcast he had with
Wow.
Swin Asawin Subasang, who everyone just calls Swin. Very much like, because he's Thai, it's very much like the
Hmm.
filmmaker Abichapang Wirasatakul, he
Yeah,
just said
it's
to
a
everyone, just
mouthful.
call me Joe. Just call me Joe.
I love
And so
I love it.
that's what Abaswin does. He says, just call me Swin.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Um,
actually,
hmm,
they reunited for a thing on the Bulwark channel a couple weeks ago for Will Summers' MAGA Mondays thing because Sam Stein was on vacation, so we brought in Swin, and it was a really cool reunion.
yeah. I
For
also
the
really like that they brought in Catherine Rampell. I think she's a really smart, really,
mm,
really excellent financial kind of lens that she looks at this stuff. Yeah, the Bulwark's just it's indispensable.
Yeah, I really enjoy, and I miss the old podcast that Tim used to have with Cameron Kasky, the FY Pod,
Yeah, yeah,
because Cameron had to bow out because he ran for Congress for a brief period of time. Now he's becoming basically like a full time activist for Gaza. He's had several trips there. It's really incredible what he's doing. But yeah, those are the people who I probably pay attention to the most. I also do want to give a shout out also to a guy named Pablo Torre. If you're looking for investigative sports reporting from a more progressive angle, Pablo Torre has a podcast called Pablo Torre Finds Out, and he writes about and he covers all different sorts of things in the sports world. He did a great expose on Riley Gaines and all the money that she's receiving, and how, as she's received more money from the right, her positions have gotten more harder line to the right, which and more ridiculous anti-trans. It's quite fascinating. He actually just won a Pulitzer for his podcasting, for his
wow.
podcast, and some of the reporting he's done there. So that's a good one to keep your eye out for as well. But
Okay.
let's talk. So, I mean, house races are interesting. There's so many intricacies to go into there. But let's
Yeah,
start with the Senate. So, here's a
yeah.
map
This is a big
of
one.
where the Senate is. I'm going to go by our color palette. I'm going to have safe, likely, lean, tilt. So, let's start with our safe states.
Yeah.
Um, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. Jack Reed's going to win another term. New Hampshire. They're trying to the Republicans are nominating John Sununu.
His son, right?
Sununu is a huge name in New Hampshire.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, John Sununu, the one they're running now, was the former senator. He was senator for one term from 2002 to 2008.
Right.
He lost re-election in the Obama wave to Jeanne Shaheen. Uh,
Yes.
his brother is Chris Sununu, the very popular
Oh, brother.
Republican governor, and their father is John Sununu II, who has been a longtime power broker in New Hampshire politics. He was George H.W. Bush's chief of staff, actually. Um,
Sununu disappointed me because I thought he was a centrist, and then he just went all in on MAGA, and I just thought, okay, you're an
yeah,
idiot.
Yeah, so that's where that is. I believe Cory Booker is up for reelection in New Jersey. He's going to win
Hmm.
there.
Yeah.
Delaware is going to stay. Mark Warner is going to win in Virginia again. Um, Illinois' Dick Durbin seat is going to stay blue
Hmm.
for J.B. Pritzker's Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton. Minnesota, I'm very excited about with Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan won her primary by 20 points this past
You
week.
killed it.
She's going to be uh, and we're possibly she is going to be our first Indigenous woman female senator, and
Wow.
it's very possible she will have
We might we
another
might get
Indigenous
two
woman joining her. We'll get
to
to
the
that in a
north.
little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Very
uh,
exciting.
uh, Hickenlooper is going to win again in Colorado. I think it's Ben Ray Lujan is up again in New Mexico. That's going to stay blue. And which one is it that's up this year? I think it's Ron Wyden in Oregon
Hmm.
is going to. So those are the solidly Democratic states. Now our solidly Republican states. These are going to be a lot of the list of the usual suspects: West
Yeah.
Virginia, Kentucky,
They love voting
Tennessee,
against their own interests.
yeah, South Carolina,
Oh, stopping there.
Alabama.
South Carolina, do you think Linda Graham's sister's going to win the runoff?
I think whoever. I actually do think that she's going to win the runoff. She
Oh,
finished surprisingly strong, and I think it's just
she
because
did.
yeah, and this is some people. This is not an uncommon. This happens where they will name an appointed person. They will that when a vacancy happens, when a death happens, sometimes the spouse will get nominated. It's not that uncommon.
Yeah,
In
it's not uncommon.
2000, one of the most notorious examples of this was in 2000. Even though George W. Bush won Missouri for the on the presidential level, the incumbent senator was a man named John Ashcroft, who you might remember became George W. Bush's first attorney general. But he was running for reelection against the popular governor, Mel Carnahan. Carnahan died in a plane crash, I believe it was, or either that or a heart attack. And his wife ended up stepping up to run the rest of the race. And she was appointed, and Carnahan won that race, and his wife was appointed to fill that seat until a special election 2 years later that was
Right.
won by a man named Jim Talent. And then 4 years
Yeah,
later, he would lose to Claire McCaskill, of all people.
I love her.
These stories are really fascinating.
They are.
Um,
Okay, let's keep going.
Louisiana,
Yeah.
Arkansas,
Ugh,
Oklahoma, South
what are they
Dakota,
doing?
Wyoming, Idaho, and I know there's some hope. There was some hope for Montana with the
Yeah,
independent candidate Seth Bodnar, because a lot of people who worked for John Tester, the senator who lost 2 years ago, were
yeah.
working for Bodnar's campaign. But the Democrat is refusing to bow out. So unfortunately, I
Oh,
think
that's
Montana is
stupid.
going to be solid red.
Yep.
Um, but now we get into the more interesting
Oh, this is where
races.
this is where it gets really exciting. I love this Senate map. I cannot believe the Democrats are so competitive. Like 2 years ago, you would have laughed at anyone saying this.
a lot of
But
this is a lot of this is reminding me of the 2006 midterms when at first going into it around, mid 2005, if you said that the Democrats would have taken back the Senate, they would have laughed you out of and then they ended up taking the Senate. My
that's right.
state, Virginia, gave them the 51st vote. Jim Webb for Senate. I was
Oh,
at the victory
yes.
party that night. It was one of the best nights I've ever had. That was one of the greatest nights because George Allen, the incumbent senator, was supposed to win re-election and then was supposed to be the front runner for the Republican presidential nomination in 2008. And we put a
Yeah.
stop to that. And
Yes.
we were very proud of that. 10,000 votes. We were watching those numbers go up and down all evening. And then around midnight, we had CNN on the screen there, and the numbers flipped right live on screen,
Oh,
and we
what a
all lost
dream.
our fucking minds. We
Yes.
we were just out there. We were just crazy. It was nuts. Um, in the likely Democratic column, I am putting North Carolina in there.
Roy
The
Cooper.
Democrats have Roy Cooper is an exceptional candidate.
He is a good candidate.
He's been elected statewide 6 times. Two of those times, Donald Trump won the state of North Carolina in 2020, in 2016 and 20. He won both times. And
Yeah.
Michael Whatley's just a nobody. He's just a
Not
party
good.
lackey. Uh,
Stupid.
yeah, there's nothing going on there. So Moore's gonna. I mean, why Roy Moore, not Roy Moore, Roy Cooper is
Roy
going
Cooper,
to
yeah.
win there. Um,
Hmm.
and in Georgia, John Ossoff's
Oh,
going to win
I mean,
re-election.
he's like plus 13 the last poll I saw. I
He's
mean,
going to
that
win
John
by at
Ossoff,
the. I think his floor is high single digits. He's
talk
going to
about a
do very well,
fighter.
and he could very well bring a Democrat to win the governorship in Georgia for the first time in over 20 years. So
Not for
that'll
lack
be
of
something to keep
trying.
an eye on.
That's great. Mm.
I'm also going to throw Maine in there. Now that we got Troy
Okay.
Jackson there, I think he's
Now that
the
Clayton's
most the
gone.
Republicans can come up is that he said some mean things in 1988. And one
It's
time he got
like,
so frustrated he threw a bottle of water at something. He threw a bottle
was
of
it
water at
boiling
something.
water like that Corey, whatever his name is? Like
It was bottled
seriously,
water, so at worst it was room temperature.
I just like after the furor over Plattner, the Democrats do the right thing, but yet it just does not happen on the other side. It
Now,
fucking drives me mad.
and I will never forget Susan Collins winning 6 years ago was genuinely
Ugh.
one of the most shocking upsets
Yep.
of my time watching politics. However, not only can we hang the Kavanaugh thing around her,
Yep.
now Roe is gone. She can't hide behind this
Is
anymore.
she concerned or not?
She's
I don't know.
always concerned,
Very
but it's
concerned.
just like one of my favorite shows ever was the animated show Our Cartoon President. And the
Yeah.
way that they roasted Susan Collins repeatedly was genius. During the episode that centered on the first Trump impeachment, while they're doing things in the Senate, you hear Susan Collins goes, "Oh no, mouse in the chamber," and you see her dressed up as a mouse, and she's like, "Everybody needs to run," and John Roberts just goes, "Senator Collins, just go be a lobbyist already."
Please. Just fuck off. Seriously.
Exactly.
All right. Who
Um,
else is there?
I'm putting Michigan in there. I know a lot of
Okay. I
people
want to talk about this.
are
Yeah,
down.
go.
Here's my crucial thing about this. Mike Rogers was the nominee for Senate 2 years ago. Trump won Michigan, but even his coattails couldn't bring Mike Rogers over the finish line. Alyssa Slotkin still won that. If
Yeah.
he couldn't do that then in that
Then,
environment for Republicans,
well, it's not
there's
happening.
no way he's going to be able to do it this
Roger
time.
that.
The people are the party has rallied around Abdul Al Sayed. Haley Stevens is I don't think she was a great candidate for the primary, but
But
she
she
is A
is,
plus in doing everything
yes,
that she should and needs to do.
she's got
Uh,
a future.
yeah, she knows that her future hinges on at least on being the cheerleader and
As the
saying I've
chief
done everything I
cheerleader.
can. You know,
I've got it
um,
with Abdul Asayed. I just got to say, like, I know it seems crazy in this environment that a Muslim like him can be like popular and win office, but I just feel like if you think about Obama in the early days, like just thinking about someone named Barack Hussein Obama becoming president would just seem so crazy. I don't think it's out of the question that Abdul Al-Sayed is on the ascendancy. He is so impressive. He really is, and he's like a regular, good old-fashioned American. He just happens to be a Muslim, and I'm very impressed with him. Very
he has some of
impressed.
the best political instincts I've seen in years. I mean, he knows
Yeah.
like when that reporter from Sky was saying, Trump says you're full of shit, and he said, at least I don't spray mine around the Oval Office. Like, he
It's
is
gold.
fucking on fire, man.
Yeah, it's
He's
like
gonna be a really fun presence in there.
a
And
fighter.
here's the thing: as long as Democrats come together, as I think they will, he'll be
Yeah,
fine. He'll be fine. I
yeah,
think he's going to
yeah,
win independence. I think he's going to do well.
yep.
Um, and let's see. So in terms
Who
of
else?
likely Democratic, I think that's the end of that.
Hmm.
Now time for likely Republican.
Okay.
There have been rumblings about Mississippi.
I'm
Uh,
surprised
Cindy
that's
Hyde
not
Smith
locked.
Cindy Hyde Smith is running against a man who was nominated for a federal judgeship, and she actually held up his nomination. So it's
Shit.
one of these,
Toxic.
let's see what happens. But I will say, it's very interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what black turnout is going to be like in a lot of these southern
Mhm.
states, especially ones where where the Republican legislatures have pounced on the gutting of the Voting Rights Act. And let me use a southern euphemism, like a pack of dogs on a three-legged cat. It's like that's
Oh,
that's what they've pounced on it like. And
tear it apart.
I have a feeling the black vote that with a candidate like Scott Cullum, it's going to be interesting, but the fundamentals of Mississippi are still there. And
That's
even
right. Let's.
and Mississippi, and I know you might want to say like, well, Alabama beat Roy Moore in 2017. Alabama is actually a very different state in its makeup than Mississippi. That actually made it more susceptible to that type of thing with a really bad Republican candidate. I'm
Right.
of the mind that even a very weak Republican candidate is still probably going to be the favorite there. It is
It just
Mississippi.
it drives me crazy that all these people are voting against their own interests. Yet again, they vote for the party that supports billionaires and not the party that's going to help their lives. It's just insane to me.
As Jonathan V. Last is so commonly, he how he always brings up that one interview we heard where someone says he's not, where someone was saying, Trump was, I think it was someone was Trump was denying disaster aid to an area, and they interviewed a Trump supporter from that area, and he said, and the Trump supporter said, "I'm disappointed he's not hurting the right people," and
Yeah.
that's what this has all been about. It's about animus, and
And
it's like
grievance.
when
Yes.
Trump said, "I am your retribution."
Yes.
That's what it's been.
Yes.
Have you read
They,
Regime Change?
oh, well, that's a great question, Charlie. That's a really great question.
I like. Is that in
Um,
paperback already?
yeah, isn't this, we have a different cover in
Oh
Australia,
yeah, yeah. No, because we
and
got the gold cover.
you got I wanted the gold. I got the Australian one because Jonathan Swan, you're a fucking legend, and Maggie
Yes,
Haberman, you're both. I think you're the goats at the moment. You are writing the first chapter of history, and this is a really good book. Everybody, just
I
want to put
read
that
it.
out
I
there.
read it. I read the whole thing while I was on when I was on vacation in London.
Oh
And
yeah,
yeah, and I just absolutely ate it up. It's such an incredible book.
yeah.
Um, yeah. Um, then there's Florida.
Oh
Florida,
God,
the thorn in every Democrat's side. It's so
just
crazy that
looks like a
Obama's the
thorn.
only person who's won Florida since 2000, the only
It's
Democrat
insane.
who's won it since 2000. And I did not think he was going to win it in 2012. I was convinced that Romney was going to win it. So when Florida ended up going for Obama, I was like, oh wow, the Obama campaign really had their shit together. Um,
But since then, it's gone. It just seems to be going more and more red. But
Yeah,
what's going to
and in
happen
fact,
this year?
actually, that's one of the interesting things in the game in the book Regime Change when they talk about Susie Wiles, how
Hmm.
she was brought into DeSantis's campaign because DeSantis's campaign for governor in 2018 was floundering. I thought he was going to lose. I thought Gillum was going to win that one, but credit, I guess, to her, she came in and got shit on the right, which is, I guess, why she's this force. She's been this force in Florida politics, and
Yeah.
now she's just the awkward chief of staff who just always goes, "Well, it's what the president wants," and it's
Oh
just
my
like, oh,
God.
you look at her and you're like, you know better,
Where
you
is your
know better.
pride, your self-worth?
Uh, they have an interesting candidate for the Democrats there in Alexander Vindman, the
Yeah,
former naval officer, I believe it was, who was the one who blew the whistle on Trump's
in
first
Ukraine.
impeachment. Now, his identical twin brother is a congressman from Virginia. He represents the
It's
seventh
so
district, which is the
confusing.
exurbs, and he's probably going to win re-election. I have a Florida, I think, is going to be more interesting when we get to the governor's race, when we get to that section. But I think on the
Hmm.
federal level, it's still going to be a likely Republican race. I think, what's
Hmm.
her name? I think, is it Ashley Moody? Is it? Or
I can't
uh,
remember.
let me just check
I
down
blocked it
here.
out.
Yes, Ashley Moody,
Yes, Ashley
who was the
Moody.
attorney general of Florida, who DeSantis
Ugh.
appointed when Rubio left to become Secretary of State. Um, I still think that's going to be a lean Republican race. Uh,
Hmm.
Kansas. The polling in this one has been very interesting. Roger Marshall is running for a second term, but Kansas is this very interesting state. Remember, they had the first big abortion referendum right
Yeah,
after Roe fell. And it was because abortion is actually the right to an abortion is in the Kansas Constitution. And the vote was whether or not to repeal it. And by a two-thirds vote, Kansas said, no, we're sticking with things the way they are. We're sticking
and
with this in our constitution.
do you remember when that happened? the
Yes.
people started reading the tea leaves, like, oh, okay, this is looking really good for the Democrat. It was all, and then that stupid Seltzer poll in Iowa. We got so many like red herrings, which is
Yeah.
why it was so disappointing. But
It's
go on.
it's yeah, and the history is not on our side. It literally has been 100 years since a Democrat has
Oh,
represented Kansas in the Senate.
just let it go. Let it go.
So, but we do. Kansas does currently have a Democratic governor. They're no stranger to Democratic governors. Lord
True.
Kelly won that because the Republicans nominated. Well, first of all, they had 8 years of Sam Brown back, who was just a disaster for Kansas, instituting these tax cuts that bankrupted the public education system. And then the Republicans didn't nominate because he became an ambassador in the first Trump administration, and the lieutenant governor who assumed the governorship lost the primary to the Secretary of State, a man by the name of Chris Kobach, who was anti-immigrant. He was far right, and even for Kansas, they were like, "Yeah, no, you're too far for us."
It's too much.
Um, I still, they have a very interesting nominee. The Democrats nominated a man by the name of Adam Hamilton, who's actually a pastor in the United Methodist Church. And as He is a moderate, but is very, open, welcoming. The United Methodist Church has actually been okay on LGBT issues. They have not like the split that happened here with the Episcopal Church, which
Mhm.
was oof, that was something. Um, I need to see more evidence of this for Kansas to go blue on a federal level. But if anything could do it, a shitty economy and a war in Iran, that I think that Iran is going to be fucking with Trump this whole time. They're going to be doing this so that it keeps going because Iran's only gotten stronger in this whole thing, you
Yeah,
know.
pretty bad.
And then there's Nebraska. You have an interesting independent there named Dan Osborne, who really truly is a genuine independent. He really has things that would appeal to both sides. He's a union guy, but more of a moderate. And he came within, I think, only 6 points of beating the incumbent Republican senator 2 years ago. He's going to try again this year. I think he has a better chance this year, but I'd still, if I was a betting man, I would keep my money on Ricketts,
Oh,
the
yes.
incumbent senator, because also that name means a lot in Nebraska. Ricketts is a very one of those, like we were saying with Carnahan in Missouri, and what was the other one we were talking about, where the name goes a long way. Um,
Like
I can't remember.
Sununu?
Yeah, Sununu. It's very much like it's
Mm,
on that same level.
yeah.
Um, so that's where we are on that.
Dynastic.
Now we are
Yeah,
left
let's
with
okay.
Yeah. So now we're left with the four ones that really I think are toss ups,
This is
and
it. These are the
I'm not
ones.
putting either of these in lean. I'm putting these in tilt. So the first one
Really.
I'm putting tilt Democratic, Alaska.
Mary Peltola, I want her to win so bad.
I am in love
Please
with
win.
Mary Peltola. She is.
She's so cool.
But I did an Alaska cruise with my mom in 2024, and we were seeing the ads for her, and like especially like fisheries were really uh, running the score up her. And even though Kamala Harris lost the state by 11 points, um, uh, Peltola only lost her race by 3 points. So she's starting at a very good area, and she knows how to bring federal dollars. And I tell you, when you have an administration that's as erratic with its funding as this one is, Alaska's going to take that very seriously.
Yeah.
And and there's also, I think the indigenous population is going to come out very big for her. She could
Yeah.
be it might be amazing that at this point next year, we have two indigenous women in the United States Senate, one from Minnesota, one from
Incredible.
Alaska. I love Mary Peltola. I love that her campaign slogan is fish, family, freedom. I'm like, and it
You,
was amazing because her husband died in the middle of the campaign late in the campaign in 2024. Her
oh,
husband passed away. I think it was an all of a sudden thing, and she kept on going. She played it pretty strong, and I think she is a great recruit there. I actually feel very bullish about her in Alaska.
Same. I agree.
My next one I'm putting
Okay.
in tilt Democratic Ohio.
Yeah, let's talk about it. I just if we can't this can't go red because okay, I'm just going to let you speak because I get frustrated.
Yeah, this is the seat that was vacated by J.D. Vance to become vice president. Mike DeWine, the Republican governor, who is the rare breed of Republican he's a Republican, but he actually believes in governance. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
and like I
He's
give
not a
him
bad
credit,
guy.
he was one of the first governors to actually impose a shutdown when COVID happened because he could see. A lot of people forget that it was because of even though yes, COVID had a 1% fatality rate, our hospitals couldn't handle it,
That's the problem. They keep
and
saying it was
he
only
saw that, and
1%.
that's
They
why
still people.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and we know this because if Tony was here, he'd be telling us about how his experience.
right.
Almost like I don't know if he was close to death, but we were worried for him when he
He
was in
was
the hospital.
really, really sick. Yeah.
Yeah, we were really worried for him. And
Yeah.
Sherrod Brown is someone who he's an establishment guy, but he has cred as a working class guy. He's always been. I remember the documentary that won at the Oscars a couple years ago, American Factory.
Yeah.
And I love the moment when they bring him up on stage and he says, I hope that the Chinese will let you guys unionize. And the Chinese people who own the factory freaked out. And I'm like, you had to know he was going to do
That's
this. This is his
balls.
brand, man.
It's his brand. But can I just want to mention, I can't remember the names now, but not the last cycle, but the cycle before, there was a really, really strong Democrat in Ohio that I thought was going to pull it off and didn't. And I
Was
just
that the
keep
one who
getting
was running against
disappointed.
Vance for the Senate seat, Tim Ryan?
Yes, Tim Ryan. I
Yes.
was really impressed with Tim Ryan, and it didn't
Yes.
happen. And I know, I mean, JD Vance, I just think is one of the
Well,
most disgusting people I've ever seen in the public sphere. If that's happening, then I don't have a lot of faith in Ohio. And if Vivek manages to get a governorship, I mean, that's a whole other story. I will just be spewing.
yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Um, yeah, because this was the race that JD Vance won, and Tim Ryan did stronger, and it was incredible because a lot of people remember Tim Ryan for his disastrous 2020 presidential campaign, where he was so awful in those debates, it became like a joke. He's like the guy who's running the microphones. He's the real embarrassment tonight, but he got his shit together and he did, and he ran very admirably in what ended up being a much better year for. I was on the train that I thought 2022 was going to be a disaster. I thought 2022 was going to be a disaster. I was so pleasantly surprised, and
Yeah.
it would have been nice if he
Thank you,
could have
Joe
pulled that one
Biden.
out. Yeah, I actually thought he was going to run for governor this year. I thought he was going to
Yeah.
run for governor this year. Um,
Yeah.
but he decided not to. I'm sure that he thought that was just maybe he's just exhausted. And you know what?
Mm.
I don't blame
I don't
him.
blame him. I don't blame him. I'm really curious to what you're going to say about Iowa. My eyes are on Iowa, Charlie. You need to
Yeah.
you need
So
to give
we are
uh,
now at our last two now.
the last two because that big one down the bottom there, we're going to leave that to the end.
Yeah. So Iowa at this point, I think now I personally in the primary was rooting for Zach Walls. I remember Zach Walls when he had that viral moment when he testified in front of the Iowa legislature about his two moms and the way I've been a fan of his for a long time. And I actually loved if you listen to his appearance that he did on Pod Save America, how he talked about his personal gripe with Ashley Hinson being in the state legislature and killing a bill that he had worked so hard on. I'm like, there's nothing like vengeance to really animate
Oof,
someone. And
obviously.
right now, I still give Iowa a tilt Republican, but I think because of the governor's race there, that could actually buoy Josh Turek, who actually has this incredible story, being a
Yeah.
gold medal Paralympian, and would literally get out of his wheelchair and climb up the stairs to knock doors. He has such an incredible narrative, and I think
Yeah.
he is someone who
So good.
I'm not prepared yet to go in on it, but I think if things continue the way they are, I think he's gonna win. And but at this point now, I have to put it tilt Republican.
I think we've got to be realistic, but I feel like you do have a point. And let's keep our. If Iowa goes the way of the Democrats will take the Senate. It's
And
really that simple. I
hopefully,
feel.
and as we are so keen of hearing because of our listening to the Bulwark, we know they don't need 51, they need 52 because God knows what the fuck Fetterman's going to do. I feel
And I
so
wish Pennsylvania was voting this time. I wish that we were up for him to be reelected or to whatever, because I just think he's an absolute disgrace.
he is such a disgrace, especially because of the people who got him there. I was a
Yeah.
backer of Fetterman when he first ran for Senate in 2016. He got 20% of the vote, did better than a lot of people thought he would. Um, but he was ran as an unabashed progressive. Then he became lieutenant governor of Pennsylvania, and he was known for flying the not only flying the pride flag, but for flying marijuana flags outside the lieutenant governor's office in Harrisburg. And it's just such a shame to see what he's
What
become.
happened? It's just
Yeah,
been
well,
killed. Well,
stroke and I guess Israeli money is
I
something.
think,
And
yeah,
I
yeah,
understand you do. I wish more people would at least say I understand you have to be very careful when talking about money and aligning it with, you know, groups of predominantly Jewish people. So you got to be very
I get
careful
it.
with how you phrase things. But
Yes.
you know, like he's just he went on this like the way he refuses to see any humanity in the Palestinians is just like I'm just like the man has no heart. And from what I hear, also it's also causing a strife in his marriage as well.
Yeah, I heard that
Um,
that's over. But
yeah, I'll never forget there was a photo shortly after he became a senator of his wife, who's Latina, and Chasten Buttigieg, Pete's husband. And I remember there was a photo of them uh, together on that went out on Twitter, and someone posted it on Twitter and said, "This is giving the vibes of the two theater kids who sit together in gym class and just gossip while everybody else is doing their own."
mhm.
And I was
Yes,
like,
that's
"Yes, I remember because I was that guy in gym class in high school."
um, drum roll. We need to talk about Texas and why someone of the caliber of their candidate is even in the conversation and could even win over someone like Tallarico. And before you regale us with all of the facts and your knowledge, I just okay. The Democrats get criticized for nominating certain candidates that are maybe too progressive, or they have blue hair, or they're socialists, or they're lesbians, or whatever it may be. They nominate a religious white man who seems like a good guy, who's looking out for the little guy, and that's still not good enough for the people at fucking Fox News. Because now he's the big boogeyman, because he's not American enough, he's not manly enough. Jesse Waters, you're
that
not
to me
manly enough.
this says everything about them. The only thing they can think of to go at him for is that he's a vegan and that he's feminine. Neither of which is true. He's not a vegan
Yeah.
and
And he's not feminine.
he's not gay. He has a girlfriend, an actual girlfriend that we have seen pictures of who does not live in Canada. You know,
Unlike
it's
some other politicians who pass themselves off as having fake girlfriends. And let's not go down that road, shall we?
the rent boys of the rent boys of Lindsey Graham pour one out for him. But but yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, they nominate Tallarico and he wins outright. Didn't have to go to a runoff. Jasmine Crockett, as far as I'm concerned, is being a very sore loser in this thing.
Terrible.
Um,
And I like her, but
she ran a
terrible.
bad campaign, and
Yeah.
she really wasn't. She got in so late. That was the other thing. She didn't get in until like December of 2025, which she had like 4 months. Like she decided at the last minute to get in because also Texas redrew her district. So
Yeah.
you know,
Had no choice, really.
and the weird thing is that when I was reading reporting of reporters going to both Tallarico and Crockett events, really, it was the attitude there. They said, "Well, what if the other person wins?" Both sides were going, "You know, I'm just happy to have a competitive primary where I get to pick between two genuinely good candidates that I like, and I'll be
Passionate.
happy
Yeah.
either
Yeah.
way." So even though I think she's playing a bit of a sore loser, at least for right now, maybe things will change in the next couple of months. As long as the African American community gets behind Tallarico, I think he'll be okay, and it'll come down to the independents. And then the thing is that the Republicans nominate Ken Paxton, who is
Like,
just a uniquely
disgusting.
bad candidate. And it's not just that he's so far right, he's also genuinely a bad fundraiser too. That's why he's having to go on Fox News and beg for money on national TV. And this has been true in his races for AG. He's been a bad fundraiser for years. He just succeeded because he was the Republican who was able to win the primary, and then in the general, just right off, the Republican wave.
He's an adulterer. He's disgusting. I
He's a
cannot believe
corrupt.
that this is
During
happening.
the 4th of July, he went to another country. He went to the country
Yeah.
we beat in the war with his mistress.
And all of these so-called Christian evangelicals turn a blind eye, just like they do with Trump. And it
Yep.
makes me really angry. But Charlie, I need you to talk me off the ledge because after Beto and Allred, I just feel like I cannot waste any more of my emotional capital on Texas. Is this going to be a different one?
At this point, honestly, if I had to, if I could, I would just leave it as a toss up. But right now, for this one, we are leaving no toss ups. And at this point, I would put, well, sorry, I'd put Texas tilt blue. And here's the thing: Beto, for as great a campaign as he ran in 2018, never led in a poll in Texas until maybe the last 2 weeks of the race. I think he led in maybe 2 or 3 polls. The Latino vote is swinging heavily back to the Democrats, mainly as an anti-Republican vote because of the economy, but then also, for definitely the immigration issue is big there too. But as I said, but in the polling, Tallarico is up. He is way in a far better position than Beto O'Rourke was uh, 8 years ago. Um, so at this point, I would put it tilt. I would still be on pins and needles. Tallarico needs to run this race like he's 10 points down the whole time, which I have a feeling he will. I don't think Tallarico is someone who is uh, very high and mighty on his own supply. He still understands he's running in Texas. So at this point, I honestly, if I could, I'd leave it a toss up. But right now, I'd say it tilts. But this is still the fact that I've seen like Nate Silver has Texas in the lean blue column, but still has Alaska, Ohio, and Iowa and genuine toss up territory, I think tells you everything you need to know. And I
Yeah.
think independents are not buying Paxton right now. And here's the thing: it's not just that people have to vote for Paxton. I think there's going to be people that would vote for Paxton. They're just going to stay home because they hate the economy. Definitely the ones that hate the war are not going to be, because of
Yeah.
course he's going to be a rubber stamp for that whole thing. I really think that
Yeah.
the war is an underrated issue, which is why I like El Sayed in Michigan, because he's one of those people who's like, I'm not getting, he's going to be like the Vicente Fox, the former president of Mexico. Remember when he said, we're not paying one fucking dime for that stupid wall, when Trump was saying Mexico was going to pay
I
for the
love it.
wall? And I think El Sayed should just say, I am not giving one fucking dime to this stupid fucking war that we have, that is causing sailors on an aircraft carrier to have to be held back from jumping overboard.
I can't believe. Like, what next?
This
Every
is what
day, Charlie,
happens
there's
when
a
you
new
when you when you
crisis.
lionize the military as gods. You forget that
Yeah.
they're people, and they need things that people need, like sustenance, like
And like
morale, like
running water and a toilet.
water,
And
toilet.
yeah,
Yeah,
Hegseth just I can't wait for
Hegseth is
Hegseth
the
to be in jail because he's a
I hate
disgusting
him so
human.
much. I hate every time I drive by. And I drive by the Pentagon all the time, and just the idea that, like, how can you
Like,
be
what are we
surprised with this
doing?
whole Iran thing when he renamed the thing the Department of War?
Stupid. And then
It's
you
just the
lose a
stupidest
war.
thing.
And what are we not talking about? We're not talking about the Epstein files. So congratulations, MAGA.
That
You
actually
did
that
good.
that that's one comment whenever I hear someone, I always it's one thing that personally I'm just like, shoot me now.
Yeah.
Whenever I hear someone bring that up. It's a good attack line, but it's something I'm tired of.
Hit me now.
So that's where
Okay.
I think we stand right now. It could be as many as 53 if we run the table. Um, and at that point we might get Kansas, Who knows at this point?
Who
The
knows?
world is
I
our
look
oyster at this point. And all we
for
have to do is
now, and
just
let's look
yeah,
back on it later and see whether we were right or wrong. I think this is looking good.
this is
One more
looking
thing I want
good.
to
Yeah.
say. I see all the red.
Mhm.
Like, I see all the red, and I just think this is not a normal time. And I get that you may be a Republican, a conservative, an evangelical, whatever it may be, and you don't believe in trans and all the other things that the boogeyman, the communism
Or
stupidity.
simple human
But
decency.
yeah, yeah. But here's the thing: we are not in a normal time. Donald Trump is a cancer, and America is in for a world of pain if they don't do something to stop him. Okay, please, Republicans and independents, just you need to just this once, and maybe in 2028, just let's be real. This is not a normal time. This is not party politics. This is, to me, this is existential. Okay, it's really important. And that's
It is.
I sound hyperbolic, but I don't think I'm being hyperbolic at all.
I don't think you are either. Um, so that's where I see things right now with the Senate. And now we're going to get into some more interesting races with the governor's races we have here. Um, Let me just increase my palette here. So again, let's start with our state seats. Let's start with our team, our state Democratic seats. Hannah Pingree is going to win in Maine. Maura
So
Healey is
many.
going to win again in Massachusetts. Ned Lamont is going to win an unprecedented third term in Connecticut, which is really funny. I remember when in 2006 when he knocked off Joe Lieberman in the Democratic primary. Do you remember this?
Yes, Joe
And then
Lieberman.
Joe Lieberman ran as an independent for the Connecticut for Lieberman party, and that's just the whole
God,
thing.
that's
Funny story from my time going to Democratic events. The following year in 2007, I went to this uh, liberal conference called Take Back America. It was sort of like at the time like a liberal, like a leftist answer to CPAC. And
hmm
so I was at the Capitol Hilton, which is where the most recent assassination attempt happened. And I was on one of those escalators going from the ballroom up to an upper level, and Ned Lamont got on the escalator right behind me, and so I
Oh,
decided, okay, I'm going to have some fun here, and I turned to him and I go, "You from somewhere?" And he held up his badge and said, "Oh, I'm Ned Lamont from Lamont Digital Systems." Not he didn't say, "Yeah, I'm the guy who handed Joe Lieberman's ass to with the primary." And he said, "Ned Lamont, Lamont Digital Systems." And I went, "Oh yeah, Bill
oh.
O'Reilly says I'm not supposed to like you." And he just
Bill
laughed and said,
O'Reilly.
"Yes, he did."
Yeah.
So that's my little Ned Lamont story from back in
I
the
love it.
yonder years. I remember he kept on trying. He kept on spending all this money. He tried to become the Democratic nominee for governor in 2010, lost to Dan Malloy, and then tried again in 2018 and finally won. I mean, it's one thing with these candidates. Like you look at someone like Michael Bloomberg spends $200 million of his own money to win one primary in American Samoa.
In Samoa.
I love that Elizabeth Warren said,
Thinking.
if I'm going down, I'm taking this asshole with me. Although part of me, when she basically decapitated him and held his head on in her hand, when she had that comment about about the emails that had been released about him, denigrating women and calling certain women horse-faced lesbians, part of me
Yeah.
wanted to go could this be like the ugly baby episode of Seinfeld? I want to see a picture of who he was referring to because part of me is like going, I might see it and go, I
Well, maybe he had a
know
point.
it's not the right thing to say, but part of me was just all I could think of was the ugly baby episode of Seinfeld when they all look at the baby, they go,
You're like, oh, Shit.
But like also you look at Tom Steyer in California spending all that money in the presidential
Oh,
campaign, couldn't get, and then spent all that money in California and still could only come in third place.
yeah.
Like the what it must do to you to spend all that money and people are just like, no.
No, I'm not interested. Bye.
Rhode Island's an interesting thing. They're probably going to, their current governor is probably going to get knocked off in the Democratic primary, but that's going to stay Democratic. Same with New York. Kathy Hochul is going to win another
Yeah.
term there. Josh Shapiro is going to win in Pennsylvania.
Easy.
Wes Moore is going to win in
Yep.
Maryland. Um, let me see here. Amy Klobuchar is going to
Yep.
win in Minnesota, if only
Good for
by
her.
threatening to throw things at people that don't vote for her. Do you
That's
really want
it.
to fucking see what I'll do?
Just vote for her. Okay.
The
Who
whole
else?
stories of her losing her shit were priceless. They turned, which made her character on Our Cartoon President one of the best characters in the whole show. She
Hmm.
was hilarious on that show.
Yep.
Um, Colorado, Phil Weiser, the
Hmm.
attorney general, is going to become the governor there. Good for him. Deb Haaland is going to be the new
Yeah.
governor of New
Speaking of
Mexico.
Indigenous, yep.
And the other former Biden cabinet official, Javier Becerra, is absolutely going to be the next governor of California.
Yep.
It's kind of bonkers how he basically fell into this the same way Joe Biden fell into the be the Democratic nominee in
Yeah.
2020, because a lot of people forget that right after Super Tuesday was when COVID started happening and all the lockdowns started, and so certain primaries had to be, and so that was when everything coalesced around that. Now let's
Hmm.
go to our safe. And Pritzker in Illinois is going to win
Yeah.
a third term, and
Absolutely.
he's someone who I actually now, if I had my wish list for 2028, if I could wish a
Hmm.
candidate into existence, for me, it'd be Jon Stewart.
Oh,
I,
absolutely.
if he ran, which of course he won't, but if he did run, I would do like what people did for Obama, and I would quit everything and go to work. I would do that for him. I would do that for him
Yeah,
because I believe in.
I would become a dual citizen just so I could go. I know a lot of Australians who did that just so they could vote for Obama. So yeah.
I mean, why? I mean, he's the person. He's a person, and plus, wouldn't it be sweet if we had a Jon Stewart versus Tucker Carlson match for
Oh,
president? That debate would be
gold
the most epic thing ever,
ever.
ever,
Hmm.
ever, ever. I mean,
Yeah,
my God.
it would be great.
Now let's go to our
Okay,
safe Republican seats
hey,
for
Republicans,
governor.
let's do these ones quickly because they're just so depressing.
Yeah. Phil Scott in Vermont's going to win
Yeah.
re-election. Chris Sununu's going to win re-election in
Hmm.
New Hampshire. Uh, what's his name? Alan Wilson, who you may not remember. Remember when Obama was giving a joint address to Congress and a congressman yelled out, "You lie"?
Yeah, that's the
His
one.
son is the one who's the Republican nominee for governor of South
Disgusting.
Carolina. Yeah.
Disgusting. At
Marsha
least it's not Nancy
Blackburn's.
Mace who came fifth. And it's so interesting that she hates trans people, just like that other swimmer, Riley Gaines, who also came fifth. So it's really
That's
lovely.
right. Oh my God. I did not realize they both came in fifth. Oh, that made it so fun to watch.
Hmm.
Um, let me see here. Sarah Huckabee Sanders is going to win another term
Oh,
in
God help
Arkansas.
me.
I don't know.
Yuck.
I can't remember who Oklahoma nominated, but whoever
No
they
one cares.
nominated is going to be in there.
Yeah.
Same in Nebraska. I think it's Pillin or something. I don't know. South Dakota is going to stay Republican. Same with Wyoming
Mhm.
and Idaho.
Idaho.
And
Okay.
now we're going to get into the more interesting stuff here. This is
Yeah.
where at least, and again, this is just me from my political, uh, you know, and I've been wrong
Yeah.
a lot of times. Believe me, I've been
That's
wrong. I
okay.
remember thinking that Republicans were going to sweep the Virginia elections in 2017, and then Ralph Northam won by 9, and we gained 15 seats in the House of Delegates, and I was just
Yeah.
like not prepared for that.
Sometimes the
Um,
polling is just off.
yeah, well, the polling for that one was just all over the place, and it was the first big set of elections after the 2016 misses. So, of course, I
Mhm.
was just like, I don't know what the fuck to believe anymore. Now we're into likely
Likely.
territory.
Mhm.
Um, Wisconsin, I think is. I even think if Francesca Hong had won that primary in Wisconsin, I'd probably put it in the lean category. But I still think it would be such a bad environment for Republicans that uh, Wisconsin would still probably. David Crowley pulled this one out very
Talk
narrowly.
about polling. My
Yeah.
God.
Well, I think the thing about that one's an interesting thing because there were so many undecideds, and Crowley had been in the race, then was out, then got back in so late. And
Hmm.
so the polling for Hong was actually kind of accurate, at least at where her levels were. The
Hmm.
consolidation behind Crowley just sort of came into being. Also with Mandela Barnes and just the weirdness of that race was just weird with all the
Yeah.
unique factors in there. Um, uh, Michigan, Jocelyn Benson is going to be a great candidate for governor. Now that I can't remember if it's pronounced Mike Duggan or Dugan, the mayor of Detroit was running for a while as an independent. He dropped that bid. So now it's just a one-on-one race between
Good.
Jocelyn Benson and Congressman John James.
Hmm.
Jocelyn Benson is going to win that one resoundingly. Ditto Katie Hobbs in Arizona. That was probably for me the
Fantastic.
biggest surprise of the 2022 race was her pulling out that 17,000 vote win over
Harry
the
Lake.
fucking moron Carrie Lake.
Thank God.
Yeah, thank God. Which because she did not run a great campaign. I mean, Hobbs did not run a great campaign, but she pulled it out. She knew what she was doing, and I think she knows what she's doing here. And I think she's going to enter this as a favorite here.
Yeah.
And let me see here. Do we have any others that I am going to put in the likely category now? Okay. And Oregon, I'm putting in the likely category because it's the position of governor of Oregon seems to be just a thankless job, and whoever is in it is immensely unpopular, even if they're Democrats. But I have a feeling they're just going to come home because it's just not a good Republican year, and so Tina
Yeah.
Kotek is going to continue being one of two lesbian governors in this country because, as we all know, lesbians get shit
Right.
done.
They just do. They don't fuck around.
Nope, they don't. They do. They really don't. As for our likely Republican, uh, let me see. Are there any places I want to put as likely Republican? Actually, there are no
Mm.
places that I want to put as likely Republican here, actually.
Okay,
So now
good.
we're going to go into the lean,
Eileen.
and we're going to start with the Democrats. I am putting Iowa in the lean Democratic column. Rob Sand is a genuinely. I actually first became aware of Rob Sand from TikTok. Uh, After the 2022 election, he was filming TikToks around the state of Iowa, and he was state auditor. He's the only Democratic statewide official remaining in Iowa, and he's running a really smart campaign. And I have a feeling if his margin of victory is big enough, like I think it's going to be, because remember, the Trump endorsed candidate was Congressman Randy Feenstra, who out of nowhere lost to this guy, Zach Lane, who doesn't even live in Iowa, basically.
Oh my
He really
God.
doesn't live in Iowa.
Hopeless.
I can't remember where he actually is. I think it's like South Carolina or possibly Florida, where it seems like everybody fucking lives that just decides to run for office somewhere
Yeah.
else.
Oh God.
Uh, Rob Sand is going to wipe the floor with this man. And
Good.
if that margin is big enough, I think it's very possible he brings Josh Turek along with him.
Yeah.
So that's one I have there in the likely column. In the lean column, ditto Ohio. Vivek Ramaswamy is a uniquely bad candidate, and there's
Yuck.
also something to it. This reminds me the racism that definitely exists within people in Ohio who
Maybe.
are affiliated with Republicans. It reminds me of what I heard a lot of people say about when Mitt Romney was the nominee, who, when there was a lot of anti-Mormon sentiment, whether it was deserved or not, I
Hmm.
remember there were I knew a lot of people, a good amount of people who said, I'd rather vote for the secret Muslim than the actual Mormon.
Wow.
in 2012.
See?
And I have a
Yeah,
feeling,
it's definitely
yeah, and I just also he's just a bad candidate. He's a
he's just
con.
a douchebag. I love it that he got fired from Doge. Every time he opens his mouth, it's just lies and hypocrisy and bullshit. Just go away,
And wouldn't it be
please.
something for him to lose to the person who was in charge of the pandemic response in Ohio, appointed by Republican Governor Mike DeWine, because Mike DeWine understood what was going on. There are a lot of things I don't like about Mike DeWine, but he understood that.
Give him credit.
It's
Yes.
it's amazing his trajectory. Also, he's held basically every elected position in Ohio because he was a senator. You may not remember this. He was a senator for 2 terms and then lost in '06 to a man by the name of Sherrod Brown.
Yeah.
It's amazing how these things come full circle. And that's
Yeah.
something where I think if Amy Acton, who's the Democratic nominee, does well enough against Ramaswamy, uh, like in Iowa, I think she could help pull Brown along with her. Although I think Brown is on solid footing on his own.
Hmm.
Uh, that brings me. Oh, there's one safe Democratic state I left out: Hawaii.
Hawaii.
I missed that
Yeah.
that was there because it didn't have a Senate race.
Aloha.
But uh, incumbent Governor Josh Green, who's a physician,
Yeah.
is going
He's good.
to win a second term as governor there. Hawaii had one of the most interesting times in a primary race I've ever seen. One of the most gracious primary losses I've ever seen. In 2014, the incumbent Democratic governor of Hawaii was a man by the name of Neil Abercrombie. And he had ruffled a lot of people the wrong way when he appointed his lieutenant governor when Daniel Inouye, the longtime Democratic senator, passed away in 2013. He appointed rather than Inouye's hand-picked successor, a congresswoman by the name of Colleen Hanabusa, he appointed his lieutenant governor, Brian Schatz. Well, that did
Yeah.
not sit well with a lot of people. And even though Schatz narrowly survived that primary against Colleen Hanabusa in 2014 for a full term, uh, Abercrombie lost overwhelmingly to a state senator named Daniel Ige, and they were able to call that race right away that Abercrombie lost. So Abercrombie goes out to his election night party and says, "Well, we fought the good fight. We came up short. I'm endorsing, and I full-heartedly endorse Daniel Ige. And to prove it, I am going to get in my car and go over to his election night headquarters and make my endorsement public." And that's exactly what he did. He got his car, drove over to where Ige's party was being held, and got on stage with Ige and said, "I will heartily endorse him. Congratulations." It's
Wow.
one of the classiest moves I've ever seen in
I love
politics.
that. I love that.
Let me see here.
Okay.
So
What
also
else?
in the lean category, I'm putting Georgia in there. Um, Rick Jackson is the healthcare executive who won the Republican primary runoff against Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones. Um, and I think if, as I said, if Ossoff is in the high single digits where I think he's going to be with his win, Keisha Lance Bottom, the former mayor of Atlanta, I think is going to be the next governor of the state of Georgia,
Be
and the
great.
first. I believe she'll be the first woman to hold that position, and she'll be the first black woman governor. When we thought 8 years ago Stacey Abrams would do that, but because of the organization that
Yeah.
Stacey Abrams helped build there, I think she's going to win. The other thing to remember that map that came up after the 2024 election with all the red arrows showing how all the localities voted to the right. One of the only areas that voted to the left of 2020 was the Atlanta metro area. So
Really.
Georgia truly
Okay.
is a purple state, and I think
Definitely.
that yeah, Keisha Lance Bottoms
Good for her.
is going to be the first Democratic governor in over 20 years in Georgia, which is something. Georgia used to give us Democratic governors all the time. Jimmy Carter, Zell Miller. Remember Zell Miller,
Oh
the
my
Democratic
God.
senator who gave the keynote address at the '04 Republican convention,
Yeah.
who got in a fight with Chris Matthews later that night and said on live
Mhm.
television, "I wish we lived in the day when you could challenge another man to a duel."
Gotta love Georgia.
Oh God, George is the best. It's amazing. They send us a reverend, the reverend of MLK's church, and a young Jewish former documentary filmmaker to the U.S. Senate.
Like
God bless you,
Kennedy-esque.
Georgia.
God
God
bless
bless him.
Georgia. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I think
Okay.
that's all for the lean Republican.
Lean.
I'm going to put Texas in there, but the polling has been showing Greg Abbott only in the low single digit margin of victory.
Okay.
Greg Abbott could lose this to a woman by the name of Gina Hinojosa. I believe
Yeah.
she's a state legislator. That would be something. If Abbott were to win re-election and he serves at least 2 years, he would become the longest serving Texas governor in history, uh, which is quite something considering the previous record was set by his immediate predecessor, Rick Perry,
Yeah.
who I
Yeah.
remember when he ran for president. There was a Texas reporter who had been in Democratic politics for years who said about Rick Perry, he puts the goober in gubernatorial.
What a goober. Oh my
Love it.
God.
And also in lean
Okay.
Republican, it's kind of up in the air, but I'm putting Nevada in there right now. Joe Lombardo is a really talented politician, and he's been very good at holding the Trump voters with him, but also bringing in enough independents in. And
Hmm.
Nevada, and he's also helped by the fact that Nevada has a Democratic legislature, so he's not operating within like a Republican legislature passing all sorts of crazy shit. He's more like a
Yeah.
check on the Democratic legislature. I think
Yeah.
he's going to prevail, but if the national headwinds are strong enough, Aaron Ford, who's the Democratic Attorney General, who's the Democratic nominee, could win. But I think Lombardo's a uniquely talented politician. Um, I think he's going to win that one. Nevada's a weird state. It's a hard state to pull. If you ever need to find out what's going on in Nevada, read John Ralston,
Hmm.
who is the dean of Nevada politics. Uh, who also wrote one of the most moving columns I ever read. He has a trans son. His
Oh.
son is female to male, and he wrote this beautiful column about his son when his son got his name changed in the court. There's and
All
he
right.
and he talked about his kid, like basically framing it like this kid's my hero, one of those types of things. And it was a really moving, deeply human column. If you ever get a chance, it's a really beautiful read. And he's just one of the smartest people. I remember first hearing about him in 2010 when Harry Reid was running for re-election. And I would say to people, you could have run a ficus plant against Harry Reid, and the ficus plant would have won by 7 points. But instead, they nominated that kook from Reno named Sharon Angle,
Oh my
who
God.
was just one of the oh my god, she's just one of the most uniquely bad candidates I've ever seen. Saying things like Second Amendment remedies might be needed. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then she spoke to a high school Hispanic association, and she said in front of them, that was tape recorded because they wouldn't allow cameras in there. She said, "I don't know that all of you are Latino. Some of you look more Asian to me." And it's just like, Jesus
Oh my
Christ, woman,
God.
what the fuck is
Get rid of
wrong with you?
her. Idiot.
The seeds of Donald Trump were there. The seeds of Donald
That's
Trump
right.
have been there for a while.
Yuck.
Um,
Okay, moving
and
on.
so that's where I am. So now we're in the tilt column. The tilt Republican races, Kansas,
Yeah.
Laura Kelly is still pretty popular. And even though her endorsed candidate didn't win the Democratic primary, her endorsed candidate is running very hard against data centers. And
Hmm.
that's
Yeah.
seems to be like this is a real thing that Democrats are discovering. Uh, let's not have the AI industry write their own regulations, because remember how that worked for the banking industry?
Yeah. Wake up.
So I still say Kansas tilts Republican, but I can't remember the woman's name who won the primary. She just won it just this past week. She is a good candidate. I think it'll be interesting to see where things go here.
Hmm.
Florida, I'm putting only in tilt Republican. I think that the Democrats have a really good uh, nominee with former Congressman David Jolly, who
Hmm.
if you watch MS
Yeah,
now,
he's great on MSN's MS now. Yeah, he is
he's
fantastic.
really good. I think he would be good. And Byron Donalds, I think, may be overestimating
Oh,
the safeness of his
another,
race there.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Byron Donalds, another absolute bullshit artist, hypocrisy. Just every time he opens his mouth, just nonsense.
and probably the most surprising one I'm putting here is actually Alabama. I'm only putting tilt Republican.
Mm,
So the race there is going to be a rematch of the 2020 U.S. Senate race. Tommy Tuberville, who's the incumbent U.S. Senator, uh, going up against Doug Jones, the man who beat Roy Moore in that special election. And if you ever
yeah,
need a pick
pedophile
me
Roy
up,
Moore.
go back and watch the footage of when the networks called that race for Doug Jones. And you can see Bernie Sanders is in the crowd losing his fucking mind. A man who we never see smile is losing his fucking mind in that crowd. That was such a great night. And
It was
actually,
a great night.
before I told you that before the last time I saw you when I was out in Los Angeles, when I was at National Airport, I bumped into Doug Jones at National at the he was at it he was boarding a plane at the gate next to the flight to LA.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and here's the
Like it
thing.
took, no, I was just going to say, it just took Alabamans to vote against the Republican Party that he had to be a pedophile. So it's like, okay, that's the bar. But
And
go in.
here's the thing with Alabama. I think with an increased black turnout, because Doug Jones has a ton of credit in the black community. When he was a U.S. attorney, he prosecuted people who were responsible for the infamous 16th Street church bombing back in the 60s. That's the one that killed the four little girls who were down in the
Mm,
basement.
yeah,
Um,
the
just one
great
of the most,
documentary about that. Yeah.
yeah, brilliant Spike Lee documentary. Um, uh, he has a lot of credit there. And if there's enough increase in black, and also Tommy Tuberville is not running on state issues. He's running on national issues and talking about keeping Muslims out of the state. And I'm
Like he's
like,
just an,
how much can I remember when they were going against this whole bullshit Sharia law thing back in
yeah,
2010? You know,
let
it's
it
like
go. It's always fear mongering about the caravans and the Sharia law and trans. Your son's going to become a girl if he goes to school. It's enough already. Tommy Tuberville is an oxygen thief. He must be defeated. Please.
that's why I'm only putting it until Republican. Doug Jones is actually
Good.
running on the issues of the state, and I think this could also be one like with Byron Donalds, where it's hubris, where Tommy Tuberville just assumes that the fundamental that because it's Alabama, and he's not Roy
Yeah.
Moore, that the fundamentals will favor him, and I think he could underestimate things. And wouldn't that be something to see Doug Jones, a genuinely good man, become
Yeah.
the governor of Alabama? My God,
Yeah. It would be
wouldn't
great.
that be amazing? That
Hmm.
leaves our last state, Alaska. I am putting Alaska in tilt Democratic. Alaska is going to be very interesting to watch with the primary coming up this Tuesday because Alaska has a system that makes California's top two primary look like a cake, look like, roses and fairy tales. The primary is a jungle primary. Every candidate is on the ballot for this. Now, what happens in Alaska for both state and federal offices, all statewide races, the top four in the primary go to the general. And then in the general, they use ranked choice voting.
Right. Which, of course, as an Australian, I'm totally down for because we call it preferential voting. And it means that whatever jurisdiction we're talking about becomes quite centrist. It defeats extremism when you that's my view. Go
Well,
ahead.
that's how the first time they really ran this was in the special election that Mary Peltola won
That's right.
in 2022, and then she won a full term later in the regular election.
Defeating
Um,
you know who.
yep, no kidding. The woman who just won't go away. Um,
She can see Russia from her house, so it's all good.
Jesus Christ. Remember, that was again, seeds of Trumpism were always there. And that's the
Yep.
thing I never understood about she endorsed Donald Trump when after he said that horrible shit about John McCain. John McCain, for all of his, never ever disavowed her, never said and never
Yeah.
turned his back on her. Never did. Even when everyone else in the Republican Party in the aftermath of that was like, this was one of the biggest blunders we ever made. He stood by his choice and never denigrated her. And she repays him
That's
by
right.
endorsing the man who says, I prefer people that weren't captured. A man
And do you
who,
see how people prostrate to themselves over their fealty to Trump? It's disgusting.
that's what made Lindsey Graham's so uniquely disgusting. That, and
Yeah.
when you saw the way in 2015 he talked about Joe Biden, especially after Bo died, and because Joe Biden's he almost lost his sons in that car accident that killed his wife and his baby girl. And
Yeah.
you could tell Graham was genuine when he was saying that God made no finer man than Joe Biden. To see the direction he went in is just bleh. But Alaska has they have a state house leader, Tom Begich, who is actually, I believe, the uncle of the Republican Congressman Nick Begich, who is
Mm.
the cousin of the former Senator Mark Begich. Begich is a very
Oh,
big name in Alaska politics.
it's like Sununu. Yeah.
Yep. In fact, actually, there was I can't remember which Begich it was, but back in the 70s, the congressman from Alaska was a Begich, and he died in a plane crash. When I went on a cruise, went the Alaska cruise with my mom, she booked the excursions, and she was telling me about what they were, and she said, "Oh, I booked this on this private plane ride around Mount Denali," and I had to hold back everything, going, "Mom, do you know how many politicians have died in plane crashes in Alaska?"
Please be careful.
When I was about to step on the plane, I had to pinch myself, going, "They do this every day. They do this every day. They do this every day." Um,
Yeah.
Tom Begich seems like he's going to be a pretty strong candidate. I think he's going to finish first in the primary there, and I think he's going to win the general there. So that's where I have it. 27
What,
Democratic governorships, 20 to 23 Republicans. That's where I have things right now.
what a
Rob, do you
swing.
have any questions about anything or anything else you want to say
No,
about the craziness of this year?
it's so compelling to watch and absorb, and I sometimes am surprised the amount of stuff that I know only because I listen to it so often. You are, Charlie, obviously the goat when it comes to this stuff. I think we should do this more often. We have been talking for so long. I think it's already tomorrow. I think we should wrap up, but I think we should come back and maybe do like eventually we could talk about who should the Democrats maybe think about running, because that once we get over this midterm, and that's the main game right now, then it's all going to be about defeating, destroying, decimating MAGA for good.
The if things go as well as I cannot wait for the floodgates to open the day after the midterms. For I want to say the first 3 months after the rest of November, December, and January, because it's going to be a shit show of Democrats getting into the presidential race. But it is a shit show I am here for.
It's our shit show.
It's yes, it's our shit show. Let me just get out of the Rob. Thanks so much for letting me do this and for doing this with me. We'll definitely at least do one right before election day. Um,
Yeah.
I usually use election day. I still vote on election day. My mom gets her ballot
Good.
now in the mail every time, but I vote on election day because I've always said if Trump's going to put ice at the polls, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there to vote and say you can't scare me.
Get fucked.
And if you want to tie me up, we can negotiate terms later. But that's another
That's a
story
whole
altogether.
other, that's a
That's a
whole other
whole other
podcast.
thing altogether.
Trust.
Rob,
Thank you.
you are now and will forever be my friend, and I love that we got to do this.